The rain had just started when I pushed through the stage door into the alley behind Madison Square Garden. My ears were still ringing from the crowd, 20,000 voices that had been singing my lyrics back to me just minutes ago. But now, in this narrow passage between buildings, all I could hear was my own breathing and the click of cameras somewhere close by. They were already there. They always were. "Taylor, over here! Just one shot, Taylor! Is it true about—" I didn't wait to hear the rest. I pulled my hood up and started walking fast, my security team trying to create a barrier between me and the wall of flashing lights. But tonight was different. Tonight they were more aggressive, pushing closer, their voices sharper. One of them stepped directly into my path, his camera inches from my face. "Come on, Taylor, just answer one question." I felt my chest tighten. Not here, not now. My security guard, Marcus, grabbed my arm and pulled me sideways toward a gap between two buildings. "This way," he said firmly, and suddenly we were running. Actually running down a side street I'd never noticed before. Behind us, I could hear them giving chase, their footsteps echoing off the wet pavement. 3 blocks, 4. I didn't know where I was anymore. Marcus had disappeared somewhere behind me, probably trying to redirect them. I turned down another alley, my sneakers splashing through puddles, my breath coming in short gasps. The lights and sounds of Midtown Manhattan felt impossibly far away. Finally, I stopped, pressed my back against a brick wall and closed my eyes, waiting for my heart to stop hammering. The rain was coming down harder now, soaking through my hoodie. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear sirens and the rumble of traffic on 8th Avenue. But here, in this forgotten corner of the city, it was almost quiet. Almost. That's when I heard the voice, deep, distinctly Midwestern, cutting through the rain. "Hey, you need help getting up?" I opened my eyes and looked down the alley. About 30 feet away, under the weak yellow glow of a street lamp, I saw someone I recognized instantly. Even in the dim light, even with rain streaming down his face, there was no mistaking that build, that presence. Travis Kelce was kneeling beside an elderly man, sitting against the wall, wrapped in layers of worn clothing and shivering despite the blankets. And Travis, 6'5", 250 pounds of pure athlete, was shrugging out of his Chiefs jacket with a gentleness that stopped me cold. I watched, frozen, as he draped it over the man's shoulders. No cameras around to capture it, no PR team orchestrating a charitable moment, just a simple act of kindness that no one was supposed to see. Then he stood and turned, and for a split second, our eyes met. I saw the recognition flash across his face. Of course he knew who I was. Everyone did. But what came next surprised me. He didn't grin or call out or make a joke. He didn't pull out his phone or gesture to someone nearby. He just looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw something I hadn't seen in another celebrity's eyes in years. Understanding. He knew exactly what I was running from. He lived it too. Different sport, different spotlight, but the same relentless pressure of being public property. The same exhaustion of performing even when the cameras were supposed to be off. He glanced back down the alley toward the street, probably hearing what I heard, voices getting closer, the paparazzi still hunting. Then he looked back at me and jerked his head toward a doorway I hadn't noticed before. "Come on," he said quietly. "I know a way out." 2 seconds of hesitation. That's all I had, because behind me I could hear them, the shouts getting louder, the footsteps splashing through puddles. I ran toward him. Travis was already pulling open a service door, probably left unlocked by kitchen staff from one of the restaurants above. He held it open, waited for me to slip through, then followed and let it close behind us. We stood in a dimly lit stairwell, both breathing hard, listening to the muffled sounds of the paparazzi running past outside. "That was close," I whispered. "Yeah." He was watching me carefully, concern etched on his face. "You okay? That looked pretty intense." And there was again that simple question that somehow cracked through every defense I'd built. "No," I admitted, my voice shaking. I'm really not. We ended up in the back corner of a 24-hour bodega on 10th Avenue. It was Travis's idea. These places are invisible, he'd said, leading me through the rain-soaked streets. Nobody expects to see either of us buying overpriced energy drinks at midnight. He was right. The tired clerk behind the bulletproof glass barely glanced up when we walked in. Just two people in hoodies trying to escape the rain. Travis grabbed 2 bottles of water and a bag of chips, paid in cash, and we settled into the narrow space near the back, where lottery tickets and newspapers were stacked against the wall. For a moment, we just stood there, dripping rainwater onto the linoleum floor, catching our breath. Outside, I could still hear sirens in the distance, but in here, surrounded by rows of candy and household goods, the world felt temporarily paused. "That was insane," Travis said finally, running his hand over his wet hair. "Are you always running from them like that?" "More often than I'd like," I admitted. "You?" "Different animal, but yeah." He leaned against the wall, his frame somehow making the cramped space feel even smaller. "After we won the Super Bowl last year, I couldn't walk through Kansas City without causing a scene. Even here in New York, where nobody's supposed to care about football, I get recognized. Can't imagine what it's like being you, though. Your face is literally everywhere." "So is yours. I saw you on a cereal box last week." He laughed, a real, genuine laugh that filled the small space. "Yeah, that was weird. My mom bought like 20 boxes, got them stacked in her garage." "That's sweet." "That's embarrassing." But he was smiling. "She's got a whole shrine situation going on. Every magazine cover, every interview, every endorsement. My brother gives me hell about it constantly." "Your brother's Jason, right? The Eagles sinner?" "Yeah." Travis's expression softened. "We're both in the league, both dealing with this crazy life, but somehow he makes it look easy. Got the wife, the kids, the stability. Meanwhile, I'm eating gas station chips in a bodega at midnight hiding from cameras." "Could be worse places to hide," I offered. "True." He studied me for a moment, his expression shifting to something more serious. "You looked terrified back there, in the alley. I've seen you perform in front of 90,000 people without flinching, but tonight?" "Tonight I was just tired," I said quietly. "Tired of running, tired of performing, tired of being dissected by strangers who think they know everything about me based on who I dated 3 years ago or what I wore to the grocery store." Travis nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that. After my last relationship ended, the internet had a field day. Suddenly everyone was an expert on what I did wrong, what she did wrong, why we were never going to make it. They made it into this whole narrative, and none of it was true. None of them knew what actually happened between us." "But you can't correct them, because the truth is private. And the moment you try to explain, they twist that into a new story." "Exactly." He opened the bag of chips, offered me some. I took a handful, surprised by how comfortable this felt. 2 of the most famous people in America hiding in a bodega, sharing cheap snacks like normal humans. It's exhausting, right? Always being on. Always knowing that every word, every gesture, every relationship is going to be analyzed and packaged and sold. "And yet we keep doing it," I said softly. "Because we love it. The game, the music, the performance. That part is real. That part matters." Travis was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. "Sometimes I'm on the field and everything else disappears. It's just me and the play and the roar of the crowd. And I remember why I do this, why I put up with all the other garbage." "I have that too," I admitted. "When I'm writing, or when I'm on stage and 20,000 people are singing back lyrics I wrote in my bedroom at 2 in the morning, that's when it makes sense. That's when it feels worth it. And the rest of the time? The rest of the time, I'm running down alleys in the rain, hoping for 30 seconds of peace." Travis looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw understanding in his eyes. Not pity, not the starstruck awe I usually got from people, but genuine recognition. He knew exactly what I meant because he lived it too. You know what I think? He said finally. I think we're both pretty good at being who everyone expects us to be, but maybe we're not so good at just being. The words hit harder than they should have. Yeah, I whispered. Maybe not. We stayed in that bodega for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Cleveland Heights with Jason, about their dad coaching them in youth football, about the pressure of living up to his brother's legacy when he got drafted. I told him about writing songs in my childhood bedroom, about the terror of releasing my first album, and about the strange loneliness of hotel rooms in cities where everyone knew my face, but nobody knew me. When we finally had to leave, when the reality of our security teams frantically searching for us became impossible to ignore, Travis walked me to the corner where Marcus was waiting with the car, looking both furious and relieved. This was... Travis started, then stopped. I don't know what this was, but I'm glad it happened. Me too. He pulled out his phone, hesitated. Is it weird if I ask for your number? Not for anything public, just, I don't know, it's nice talking to someone who gets it. I looked at this man, this 6'5" NFL superstar who could have walked away when he saw me in that alley, who could have taken a photo or called Page Six or turned it into a moment for his own benefit. But instead, he'd helped me escape. He'd shared cheap chips and expensive truths. He'd seen past the persona to the exhausted human underneath. Yeah, I said, putting my number into his phone. I'd really like that. He texted me the next morning. Made it home. How's your security team's blood pressure? I laughed out loud, startling my cat Meredith. Better now. Yours? They're used to it. I have a reputation for wandering off after games. Terrible habit. Says the woman who literally ran away from 20 paparazzi. Fair point. We texted throughout the day. Light, easy conversations that made me smile at my phone more than I had in months. He sent me a photo of the cereal box with his face on it. I sent him a photo of a tabloid with a completely fabricated story about my supposed new romance with an actor I'd never even met. They just make stuff up, he wrote. All the time. You're lucky. At least your headlines are about football. You haven't seen the sports blogs. They literally analyze my facial expressions during games and decide if I'm happy with my contract. Welcome to my world. It's exhausting. Yeah, it really is. We didn't make plans to see each other. Both of us had impossible schedules. I was in the studio every day finishing my album, and he was training for the upcoming season, doing press, flying between Kansas City and various endorsement obligations. But we kept texting and calling. Late-night conversations that stretched past midnight, talking about everything from football plays I didn't understand to song lyrics he helped me work through. 3 weeks after that night in the rain, Travis texted me, I'm in NYC for 2 days, media appearances. Want to grab food? Where? Everywhere we go will turn into a circus. Leave that to me. He picked me up at my Tribeca apartment in an SUV with tinted windows, both of us wearing baseball caps and sunglasses despite the overcast November sky. His security team and mine had coordinated an operation that felt absurdly complicated just to have dinner. This is insane, I said as we drove through Manhattan. We're two adults trying to eat food. Two very famous adults, Travis corrected. There's a difference. If we show up at any normal restaurant, we'll have 50 phones pointed at us before the appetizers arrive. So where are we going? You'll see. He'd reserved a private room at a small Italian place in Brooklyn, the kind of spot that catered to celebrities who wanted actual privacy. We entered through the kitchen, bypassing the main dining room entirely, and were shown to a space with exposed brick walls, soft lighting, and a door that closed firmly behind us. How did you find this place? I asked as I settled into my chair. Jason told me about it. He and Kylie come here when they're in town with the kids. Travis picked up the menu, then set it down. Can I be honest about something? Please. I haven't stopped thinking about that night. about what you said about being tired of performing. And I realized I'm the same way. I'm so used to being Travis Kelce NFL star that I forget how to just be Travis, the guy who likes terrible reality TV and makes elaborate breakfast even though he can't actually cook. I smiled. You watch reality TV? All of it. It's my guilty pleasure. Don't tell anyone, it'll ruin my reputation. Your secret's safe with me. We ordered food and fell into easy conversation. He told me about the pressure of being in his brother's shadow, even now when they were both at the top of their game. I told him about the impossible standards I held myself to, about the fear that one bad album could erase a decade of success. But that's not actually true, Travis said, leaning forward. You've built something that goes beyond any single album. Your fans love you because of who you are, not just what you create. My fans love me when I give them what they expect. The moment I deviate, the moment I show them something they don't want to see, they'll still be there, he interrupted gently. The real ones, the ones that matter. How do you know? Because I watched my team lose. I've had bad games, dropped passes, made mistakes on national television. And you know what? The people who actually cared about me didn't disappear. They got louder. They reminded me who I am when I forgot. Something in my chest tightened. I don't know if I have that. You do. You just can't see it because you're too busy trying to be perfect for people who are never going to be satisfied anyway. The food arrived. Pasta that smelled incredible, wine that tasted better than it should. We ate and tucked and laughed, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But reality had a way of intruding. Halfway through dinner, Travis's phone buzzed, then mine, then his again. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted. You should probably see this. Someone had photographed us entering the restaurant. The photo was blurry, but unmistakable. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce together, disappearing into a Brooklyn restaurant through the kitchen entrance. The tweet already had thousands of likes. How did they even... I started. Doesn't matter. They always find out. Travis was scrolling through his phone, his jaw tight. It's already everywhere. Sports blogs, entertainment sites, Twitter. Everyone's got an opinion about us having dinner. We're not even... This isn't... I couldn't finish the sentence. I know. He set his phone down and looked at me. But they don't care about the truth. They just want the story. Do you want to leave? I asked quietly. Do you? I thought about it. About the paparazzi who were probably gathering outside right now. About the headlines that would be written, the speculation that would dominate social media for days. About how much easier it would be to just walk away, to let this moment end before it became something bigger and more complicated. But I also thought about how comfortable I felt sitting across from Travis, how his laugh made me feel lighter, how he understood the specific kind of exhaustion that came from living in a spotlight you never asked for. No, I said finally, I don't want to leave. Travis smiled. Not his public smile, not the one he gave to cameras, but something softer and more real. Good, neither do I. We stayed for another 2 hours, finished our meal, ordered dessert, talked about everything and nothing. When we finally had to go, Travis's security team coordinated with mine to create a path through the small crowd that had gathered outside. The cameras were blinding, the questions were invasive, but Travis kept his hand on my back, steady and sure, guiding me through the chaos to the waiting SUV. Once we were inside, windows tinted against the flash of cameras, he turned to me. This is going to get worse before it gets better. You know that, right? The media is going to turn this into a circus. They're going to speculate and analyze and create narratives that have nothing to do with reality. I know. And I need you to know that I'm not doing this for publicity. I'm not trying to boost my brand or get more endorsements or whatever they're going to say. I'm doing this because I like you, because you're smart and funny and real, and being around you makes me remember who I am underneath all the noise. I felt tears prick my eyes. I like you too, and that terrifies me. Why? Because everyone I've ever cared about became public property. Every relationship I've ever had has been dissected and judged and turned into entertainment. And I don't know if I can do that again. I don't know if I can watch something real get destroyed by people who don't even know us. Travis was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached for my hand. So we don't let them, he said simply. We decide what's real and what's not. We protect what matters, and we don't let strangers with cameras tell us who we're allowed to be. Is it really that simple? No. It's going to be complicated and messy and probably impossible sometimes. But if you're willing to try, so am I. I looked at our hands intertwined, at this man who could have anyone, who could walk away from the complexity of being with me and choose someone whose life wouldn't come with paparazzi and speculation and constant public scrutiny. But he was choosing me anyway. Okay, I whispered. Let's try. The food arrived. Pasta that smelled incredible, wine that tasted better than it should. We ate and talked and laughed, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But reality had a way of intruding. Halfway through dinner, Travis's phone buzzed, then mine, then his again. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted. You should probably see this. Someone had photographed us entering the restaurant. The photo was blurry, but unmistakable. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce together, disappearing into a Brooklyn restaurant through the kitchen entrance. The tweet already had thousands of likes. How did they even... I started. Doesn't matter. They always find out. Travis was scrolling through his phone, his jaw tight. It's already everywhere. Sports blogs, entertainment sites, Twitter. Everyone's got an opinion about us having dinner. We're not even... This isn't... I couldn't finish the sentence. I know. He set his phone down and looked at me. But they don't care about the truth. They just want the story. Do you want to leave? I asked quietly. Do you? I thought about it. About the paparazzi who were probably gathering outside right now. About the headlines that would be written, the speculation that would dominate social media for days. About how much easier it would be to just walk away, to let this moment end before it became something bigger and more complicated. But I also thought about how comfortable I felt sitting across from Travis, how his laugh made me feel lighter, how he understood the specific kind of exhaustion that came from living in a spotlight you never asked for. No, I said finally, I don't want to leave. Travis smiled. Not his public smile, not the one he gave to cameras, but something softer and more real. Good, neither do I. We stayed for another 2 hours, finished our meal, ordered dessert, talked about everything and nothing. When we finally had to go, Travis's security team coordinated with mine to create a path through the small crowd that had gathered outside. The cameras were blinding, the questions were invasive, but Travis kept his hand on my back, steady and sure, guiding me through the chaos to the waiting SUV. Once we were inside, windows tinted against the flash of cameras, he turned to me. This is going to get worse before it gets better. You know that, right? The media is going to turn this into a circus. They're going to speculate and analyze and create narratives that have nothing to do with reality. I know. And I need you to know that I'm not doing this for publicity. I'm not trying to boost my brand or get more endorsements or whatever they're going to say. I'm doing this because I like you, because you're smart and funny and real, and being around you makes me remember who I am underneath all the noise. I felt tears prick my eyes. I like you too, and that terrifies me. Why? Because everyone I've ever cared about became public property. Every relationship I've ever had has been dissected and judged and turned into entertainment. And I don't know if I can do that again. I don't know if I can watch something real get destroyed by people who don't even know us.
Travis was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached for my hand. "So we don't let them," he said simply. "We decide what's real and what's not. We protect what matters, and we don't let strangers with cameras tell us who we're allowed to be." Is it really that simple? No. It's going to be complicated and messy and probably impossible sometimes. But if you're willing to try, so am I. I looked at our hands intertwined, at this man who could have anyone, who could walk away from the complexity of being with me and choose someone whose life wouldn't come with paparazzi and speculation and constant public scrutiny. But he was choosing me anyway. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's try."
Enjoying the story? Hit the like button, subscribe, drop your comment, and turn on the notifications. Let's keep going. The media frenzy was worse than either of us had imagined. Within 48 hours of that Brooklyn dinner, we were on the cover of every tabloid, the subject of endless Twitter threads, dissected by sports analysts and music critics alike. People had opinions about whether we were good for each other, whether this was a publicity stunt, whether I was distracting Travis from football, or whether he was using me for fame. My publicist called 3 times a day. His agent wouldn't stop texting. The Chiefs organization released a carefully worded statement about Travis's private life remaining private. My label suggested I lay low until the story cooled down. But the story didn't cool down. It got hotter. I started getting death threats from women who thought I wasn't good enough for him. He got hate mail from people who thought he was ruining my reputation. Sports commentators debated whether dating me would affect his performance. Music journalists wrote think pieces about whether I was using him for my next album. None of them knew us. None of them cared about the truth. We tried to navigate it together. We texted constantly, called when we could, made plans to see each other that kept getting complicated by security concerns and media presence. Every time I flew to Kansas City or he came to New York, it became an event. Cameras at the airport, helicopters following our cars, fans camping outside hotels. It was exhausting. 3 weeks after that dinner, I was in Kansas City for a rare 2-day break. Travis had invited me to stay at his house, a beautiful place in a gated community that offered at least some protection from the constant scrutiny. We'd planned a quiet evening, just us, finally away from cameras and crowds. But when I arrived, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the tight set of his jaw. "What's wrong?" I asked as soon as we were inside, the door closed firmly behind us. "My mom called today. Someone showed up at her house in Cleveland, a reporter, asking questions about you, about us, about whether she approved of the relationship. She was scared, Taylor. She didn't know what to say or how to handle it." My stomach dropped. "Oh my God." "It's not your fault," he said quickly, but I could hear the strain in his voice. "But my family, they're not used to this level of attention. Jason's wife Kylie is used to it because of the podcast and the media presence. But my mom? She's a normal person who just wants to have Sunday dinner with her sons without worrying about who's watching." "I'm so sorry. Travis, I'm so sorry." "Stop." He crossed the room and pulled me into his arms, but I could feel the tension in his body. "This isn't on you, but we need to figure something out because this level of intensity, I don't know if my family can handle it." We stood there in his living room, holding each other, and I felt the weight of everything crashing down. This was the pattern. This was always the pattern. Someone got close to me, and suddenly their entire life became fair game for public consumption. "Maybe we should stop," I whispered against his chest. "Maybe this is too much." Travis pulled back to look at me. "Is that what you want?" "No, but I can't be the reason your family gets harassed. I can't be the reason your mom is scared in her own home. And I can't be the reason you settle for less than you deserve,
because that's what would happen if we walked away from this. We'd both be letting strangers with cameras dictate our lives. But how do we fix it? How do we protect the people we love while still...
I was interrupted by the sound of his phone ringing. Travis glanced at the screen and his expression shifted. "It's my brother. I should take it," he answered, and I watched his face as he listened to whatever Jason was saying. His expression went from concerned to confused to something I couldn't quite read. "Are you serious?" he said finally. "When?" "Okay. Yeah, I'll call you back." He hung up and looked at me. That was Jason. Apparently there's a video going viral. "What kind of video?" He pulled up Twitter on his phone and turned it toward me. The video was grainy, clearly shot on someone's phone from a distance, but the scene was unmistakable. It was Travis, 2 nights ago, stopping to help an elderly woman who dropped her groceries outside a Kansas City supermarket. He'd gathered everything, carried her bags to her car, made sure she was okay. The woman was crying, thanking him, and Travis was just being himself. Kind, patient, genuine. The tweet had millions of views and thousands of comments, but what caught my attention was the caption, "This is who Travis Kelce is when no one's watching. Maybe we should all mind our own business and let him be happy." Jason sent it to me because apparently it's changing the narrative, Travis said quietly. People are defending us now, saying we deserve privacy, that the media's gone too far. I stared at the video, at this man who'd helped a stranger without a second thought, just like he'd helped that man in the alley the night I met him. And suddenly, I understood something I'd been too scared to see. "You know what the difference is between you and everyone else I've dated?" I said slowly. "What?" "They wanted to be seen with me. They wanted the cameras, the attention, the validation that came from being Taylor Swift's boyfriend. But you'd be exactly the same person whether you were with me or not. The cameras don't change you. The attention doesn't change you. You're just you." Travis set his phone down and moved closer. "Is that a bad thing?" "No, it's the best thing. It's the only thing that makes this worth fighting for." "So, we fight?" I thought about walking away. About how much easier it would be to retreat back into my carefully controlled life to avoid the complexity and chaos that came from being someone as public as I was. But I also thought about the bodega at midnight, the private room in Brooklyn, the late-night phone calls when we were both too tired to be anything but honest. I thought about what it felt like to be seen by someone who didn't want anything from me except the truth. "Yeah," I said finally, stepping into his arms. "We fight." Travis kissed me then, not the careful, tentative kiss of our first time, but something deeper, more certain. A kiss that said we were in this together, whatever came next. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "I need to warn you," he said softly. "I'm not always going to know what to do. There are going to be days when the pressure feels like too much, when I don't have the answers, when I mess up and make things worse." Same. But I'm not going anywhere. Even when it's hard, even when people are making up stories and invading our privacy and trying to turn us into entertainment, I'm choosing you, Taylor. Every day, I'm choosing you. I felt tears slide down my cheeks. "How do you always know what to say?" "I don't. I'm just telling you the truth." We spent the rest of that evening making a plan. We decided to set firm boundaries with the media, no comments on our relationship beyond acknowledging it existed. We coordinated with our security teams to better protect our families. We agreed to weekly check-ins where we could be honest about when things felt overwhelming. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt like maybe I didn't have to choose between being myself and being loved. Maybe with the right person, I could be both. 6 months later, I stood in the stands at Arrowhead Stadium, watching Travis play in front of 76,000 screaming fans. I was surrounded by his family, his mom Donna, his brother Jason and Kylie and their daughters, his dad Ed. They'd welcomed me with open arms, treated me like I was just another person who loved Travis, not Taylor Swift, the superstar. They cheered when he made incredible catches, groaned when plays didn't work out, and treated me to stories about him as a kid that made me laugh until my sides hurt. The cameras found me constantly. My face appeared on the Jumbotron. Social media exploded every time I reacted to a play. But somehow, sitting there with his family, it felt less invasive. It felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. When the Chiefs won and Travis found me in the stands afterward, sweaty and exhausted and grinning wider than I'd ever seen him, he didn't care that millions of people were watching. He just pulled me into his arms and held me like I was the only person in the world. "You came," he said against my hair. Of course I came. I wouldn't miss it. Even with all the cameras? Especially with all the cameras, because this is your moment, and I want to be here for it. He pulled back to look at me, his eyes shining. I love you. You know that. It was the first time he'd said it. The first time either of us had been brave enough to speak what we'd both been feeling for months. I love you too, I whispered. And then he kissed me, right there in front of everyone. His teammates, the crowd, the cameras broadcasting to millions. A kiss that said he wasn't hiding, wasn't ashamed, wasn't worried about what anyone would say. A kiss that said he chose me, publicly and proudly. The media had a field day, of course, but we'd learned to tune out the noise, to focus on what was real instead of what was being said about us. We'd learned to protect our private moments while accepting that some parts of our lives would always be public. We'd learned to lean on each other when the pressure felt overwhelming and to celebrate when things felt easy. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still moments when the scrutiny felt suffocating, still times when I wanted to run away from everything. But Travis was always there, steady, patient, reminding me that being loved didn't mean being perfect. He taught me that I could be vulnerable without being weak, that I could ask for help without losing my independence, that I could be Taylor Swift, the artist with her name in lights, and also just Taylor, the woman who cried at romantic comedies and burned dinner and didn't always have the answers. And I taught him things too. How to be softer sometimes. How to talk about his fears instead of hiding behind confidence. How to accept that being strong didn't mean carrying everything alone. We became each other's safe place in a world that was constantly watching. A place where we could take off the armor, lower the defenses, and just exist without performing. People still have opinions about us. They probably always will. But their opinions don't define our reality. They don't know about the late-night phone calls when we're both too wired to sleep. They don't know about the Sunday mornings when we cook breakfast together in comfortable silence. They don't know about the way he listens when I play him new songs, or the way I've learned to understand football plays just so I can celebrate his victories with real knowledge. They don't know us. Not really. But we know each other, and in the end, that's all that matters. I've learned that love isn't about finding someone who makes your life simpler. It's about finding someone who makes the complicated parts worth navigating. Someone who sees your mess and your beauty and your humanity and chooses to stay anyway. Travis saw me that night in the rain, scared, exhausted, running from a life that felt too big to handle. And instead of turning away, instead of taking advantage, instead of making it about himself, he just helped me find somewhere safe. He gave his jacket to a stranger because that's who he is when no one's watching. Kind, generous, genuinely good.
And somehow, impossibly, he looked at me the same way, like I was worth protecting, worth knowing, worth loving. Not because I'm Taylor Swift, but because I'm me. And that's the kind of love songs are written about. The kind that doesn't fit neatly into 3-minute melodies or clever lyrics. The kind that's messy and real and sometimes difficult, but always, always worth it. So, to anyone reading this, anyone who feels like their life is too complicated or too public or too much for someone else to handle, I understand. I've been there. But I promise you this: the right person won't be scared away by your complexity. They'll see it as depth. They'll see your storm and want to stand in it with you. You just have to be brave enough to let them. The way Travis was brave enough to help a stranger in an alley. The way I was brave enough to trust him with my truth. The way we're both brave enough every single day to choose each other despite everything trying to pull us apart. That's not a fairy tale. That's something better. That's real.
The most extraordinary thing about love is not that it arrives perfectly formed, but that it's willing to grow messy and complicated and beautifully imperfect alongside you. Don't be so afraid of being too much that you miss the person who's been waiting to love you exactly as you are. If you watched until here, thank you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love reading your messages. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss another story like this. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. Any amount helps a lot. Link in the pinned comment.